Hello world, it's Dave again, and this is another response video to someone who was kind enough to send me an email with some questions. So this is going to, like I say, is dealing with the title specifically, coming over details to do with the Peppy Kids Club, which is one of these companies that you can teach English here in Japan with. So this video is for you, Cheryl, and I hope I answer your questions as best I can. Like I've said, and like you understand, I do not directly work for that company. I work for Interact. But I've gone the extra mile here. It just so happens that one of the guys who lives in my same building works for Peppy Kids Club. So I went over, hung out with him for this evening, and we just had a conversation about his day in, day out, what he would recommend to somebody like yourself if they were to come over. And I feel as though I'm pretty equipped to answer in a good way now with some useful information. So let's see, places to start, some broad sweeping things. One thing he wanted to get me to say, first and foremost, when you mentioned in your email that you're going to come over and that there will be extensive training for 2 weeks, he said that that training is very, very intense. And he says it's good for the most part. He said that you're going to be over here with however many other applicants when you arrive. And because of the pressure cooker of the training, you'll make some really, really good relationships because everybody's trying to get through it together. And for the most part, he said everybody was really helpful finding themselves in that similar situation. And he now stays in contact with a good like half of them that were at the session. He also said of this training that it's overkill. I'll just say it how it is. It's basically you're going to find it really, really intense. But he said that he thought that was mostly just to root people out who weren't going to take things seriously. And if the company's going to find people who just can't hack it and who want to quit, this is the time where they want to find it out because they don't want you to get into the actual job itself, get out there, and then discover it, So they have this particular intensity. And don't let that intensity make you think that that's how it's going to be the whole time. That's how intense your actual in the classroom experience will be. You should still take it very seriously, but it's not indicative of how it's actually going to be when you're one-on-one working with the kids. Okay, so let's move on from that. Now that you know about the training, just that warning that it will be intense, but don't fret, don't worry. That you'll move on from that training and you'll be set up much better. Like I've said in previous videos I've made, I think that that's a better training to do where if your training's really, really intense, it means that you won't feel underprepared when you get to the classrooms. In fact, you'll think, oh, this is easier than training, which is kind of what training's supposed to do. It's supposed to make it a smooth transition into your job. So with that said, talk a little bit more about the way that you're placed. Peppy Kids Club deals a little bit more, he was telling me, with a rural setting where you're going to be put in. It's funny, what Japan calls a small town, I'm from Canada, and Japan's like small rural towns are actually quite developed. So Peppy Kids Club focuses on that. They put people in more rural settings, but it's not like you're going to be lacking for amenities or mass transit usually to a place that's very, very to a place that's, lots of hustle and bustle. Like I'm really, really close to Tokyo and, probably like an hour and a half train ride away, and he lives right next to me. So it's not like you're going to be cut off from that kind of experience if you even want to go in on the weekends, but you will likely be put in a more rural setting for your assignment. Now, to the actual teaching itself, because we talked about that, obviously, that's really, really important. So it's different in this way with the Peppy Kids Club that I work for a public school, and I go out to that public school, and I work during the hours of a regular public school, so I start at, say, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I finish at 4:30 in the afternoon. In Japan, you have club activities, and club activities take place once the official school time is over. And that's what Peppy Kids Club is. It's considered, they're like an additional club activity service for learning more English. And so you will not usually have your classes start until later in the afternoon. So if you're not a morning person, this job is ideal for you because you can get up and you can do whatever it is in the morning, and then you can go in the afternoon. And I said he doesn't think he has a class that starts before. Maybe I'm repeating myself, but 3:45. Okay, so also now moving through this, I'm thinking all the different things that he said. So number of classes, we talked about that. He said that he averages, kind of like I average actually, he averages around 4 classes a day, and he can go anywhere from 5 down to 2, but the average is roughly 4. He works on average 5 days a week, similar to myself, but then we start to get into more significant differences compared to the way that I teach at a public high school. So when I teach, except for maybe one class occasionally, I always teach with a Japanese teacher alongside. I'm an assistant language teacher. When you teach for Peppy Kids Club, you actually teach the class solo. It's all you. Probably another reason that their training is so intense is that all the responsibility is in your hands. Now, some people might freak out about this a little bit, but I think it's great. When I have had the opportunity to teach by myself, and when I've talked to the guy who does work for Peppy Kids Club, he thinks it's wonderful because it's him directing everything that's going on. So it is you solo. Now, to talk about your number of students and the number of differing classes that you have, where I might have classes A, B, and C, and I teach, I teach grades 1, 2, and 3, and in my week, Monday to Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is grades 1, then 2, then 3, and so I see those kids in grades 1, 2, and 3 4 times a month, because each week I'm going to see them once. The way that Peppy Kids Club works is that you're going to have a different class every single day, every single period that you're there, and it rotates on a full monthly basis. So he said, without now making it overly complicated, he actually sees a student once a month, and so sees way more students than I actually do. And that's got its pluses and minuses, obviously. I like building a more personal relationship, but it's cool to be able to interact with that greater amount of students that you will with the Peppy Kids Club. That's a variation that's important to know about. In addition to this, you have a lesson plan. They're going to drill you, teach you how to use it properly. And he said that once you get it and you look at it, you'll think, this will be difficult to fill an hour with, he said. And I agree with him. I looked over it with him, and I thought that, what he said is that you need to be creative. So once you get, it's going to seem overwhelming at first because you're like, I don't have all these different games, but a part of your training is to go and shadow people, and you always want to be picking up games and stuff like that to latch onto your lessons that you're going to end up doing. The major point of what I'm trying to say here is that when you get a lesson plan, the lesson plan probably won't be enough if you only went with literally what you see in front of you to take you through the hour of the course that you're teaching that day. And it's good if you can start to incorporate games. The games aren't actually teaching the thing anymore. You're only actually teaching them what's here, but the games gives them an additional interaction to just occupy them as they learn about that thing. If your goal is to teach somebody how to spell their name, I don't know how this relates to Hangman, but you play a Hangman game with that. It's not actually that you're learning anything additionally from Hangman. It's just that that's something to add in to engage them while they're learning whatever it is that they're learning. Major point, it's going to happen that you incorporate creative things into your lesson plans to get them to span to the full hour that they take up. And once you get the hang of it, it may seem overwhelming at first, but it's not. He said it's actually surprising how easily you can incorporate some cool little Barrel of Monkeys game or some other anything. It's actually simple. Don't be overwhelmed by that fact. Just be aware that it'll probably that will be required of you. Next detail. This has to do with ages. I work at a junior high school with my company, and the ages are pretty concrete. Grades 1, 2, 3. And I always know that kind of general age group between the ages of 12 to 16 that I'm going to teach. with the Peppy Kids Club, because it is a club activity, it's after school kind of extracurricular thing, there's a huge variance in the potential age groups that you could teach. And he said he's taught as young as like really young kids down to like 4 years old, all the way up to, like high school, looking at like 17 or, 18 even. And I think that's kind of cool too. I was like, just to have a different experience of things. A common misconception is that you're going to come over to here and the children are going to be like samurai, all really disciplined. They're not. They're just kids. If you watch my other videos, I talk about all that time. Kids are kids. But that's okay. It'll be cool because you'll deal with those younger kids where they're just kids, but you will deal with older people, far older than I would ever deal with the Peppy Kids Club. So major point there. There's a way broader age spectrum that you're going to deal with working for this company. So thinking about the different things, I've talked about the schedule for a week. I've talked about the age of the kids. I've talked about you being the only person in the classroom guiding the lesson. You needing to be creative with your lesson plans that you get. The lesson plan alone won't be enough to fill that hour. You'll probably have to add something additionally to it. I've talked about the fact that you'll probably have a more rural assignment, but that won't necessarily mean that you're cut off from the metropolis. You'll probably be very, very close, just like he is. And I've talked about the number of kids. I've tried to touch on everything. If there's any additional questions you have, of course, you have my email, that you can send me a few more. And I've gone the extra mile, or I should say my friend's gone the extra mile. And I'll respond to you, Cheryl, in email alone, because I don't want to give out his email, obviously. But he said if you have any questions, that never hesitate, send him an email, or when you're here you can give him a text and he will directly help you with anything that you might want to know. He's a fantastic guy, fellow Canadian. And just like he was willing to help me, he'll be willing to help you with anything that you want to know, and he should be a fantastic resource for you for anything that I may have left out. So there it is. Those of you watching, aside from Cheryl, if you like, please do like, subscribe, share. If you like these kind of videos, it really helps me get them out there. If you have a question yourself, maybe not something I answered here, my contact is down below. You can always get a hold of me through that. And like I like to say, until we meet again next time, world, thanks for tripping with Dave. Ciao for now. Peace.